Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste. Hi. Hello. My name is Afshan, and I will be your host for today's event, the Digital Dialogues Season 2, Industry 4.0. In our very first episode of the Digital Dialogues, we will be focusing on intelligent industry. Digital Dialogues is brought to you by Dell Technologies in partnership with NASSCOM and is powered by Strategic. Kindly please sit back and make yourself feel absolutely comfortable. We should be commencing episode 1 in just a few minutes. While we have an immersive set of industry and technology discussions curated only for you over the next hour or so, our last segment is today's episode will be an in-focus discussion with one of India's greatest celebrities and legends. I'm sure you all are excited to know who that is, but for now, let that remain a mystery. The first segment is titled The Digital Dialogues, and it will be moderated by Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer, Strategic.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome you to the Digital Dialogues Episode 1. Today, we are in discussion with industry leaders and NASSCOM on the concepts and nuances of the intelligent industry. I am Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer at Strategic. Industry is often faltered by underestimating the power of data as the new proverbial oil, or data as the lifeblood. In fact, perhaps data even as a business asset in itself. However, a growing realization emerges, one that focuses on early data collection, storing, and provisioning made real with an increased use of artificial intelligence and cognitive technologies. Viewed comprehensively, data analytics and that which goes into the making of intelligent industry is all about diverse approaches towards the final goal of extracting data, insights, and knowledge for their application to solving industrial problems and challenges, such as the optimization of efficiencies in machines, humans, and processes. Joining me on the panel today are some very eminent industry leaders who are at the center of crafting the intelligent factories of tomorrow, the intelligent enterprises of tomorrow. Please join me in welcoming, and in no specific order, Mr. Prasenjit Sengupta, Executive Council Member and Chief Digital Officer, Thermix Group. Prasenjit, pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Arjun.
Mr. Atul Govil, Chief Transformation Officer and Head Technology, India Glycols. Atul, pleasure that you could join us today.
Thank you, Arjun. Thank you. Look forward for a great session today.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah.
And last but not the least, Mr. Amit Saluja, Senior Director and Center Head, NASSCOM COE. Amit, pleasure that you could join us once again. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Arjun, and hi to Atul and Prasenjit.
Indeed. Hi. Prasenjit, I will directly come to you, I'd like you to fashion your response and your articulation on, given the diverse experience that you have across a range of industries, your view on the intelligent industry and what its nuances really mean in what we are really calling the digital economy. Prasenjit.
Okay, thank you, Arjun. So in my experience of both the automotive manufacturing industry as well as the heavy engineering industry that I am working in now, I find that more and more the entire industrial segment is going into an area where data is really playing a role in understanding how the processes work, a role in understanding more about the customer, a role in also understanding that how can we give more and more value adds to the customer. And the moment we are talking about outside-in approach of understanding the customer and giving what they require, it basically means that we have to re-engineer the ways in which we work, re-engineer our processes. And for doing that in an effective way, it also means that we have to understand the data, understand our inherent processes, and come up with more, let us say, more significantly important underlying solutions that is not only beneficial for the customer, but also beneficial for our OEMs. And that is the direction in which I have seen that various manufacturing industries have moved. Maybe some have moved faster, some are moving a bit slower, but I think the direction is exactly the same for everybody. How can we get more information out of our own working? How can we get more information about our own processes? And how can we use the entire thing to leverage it and get more, let us say, bang for the buck for both the customer and ourselves.
Indeed.
I think that is prima facie what I would say is the direction in which most of the manufacturing organizations are moving.
Very, very interesting set of points. Atul, if I could come to you, I think one of the keywords really that I took from what Prasenjit was mentioning was the whole concept of intelligent industry, and industry by itself is increasingly being about how do you do more, deliver more. What's your view on this, Atul? The intelligent factories of tomorrow, the intelligent industry.
So, what I was mentioning is that, coming from a manufacturing organization, what I can tell you is, so there are two ways wherein we need to look at how digital is transforming things. So one is the new business models. So that's one context. The other is within the manufacturing operations, what do we do? So I think, first of all, when you talk about manufacturing operations, the value levers in manufacturing is very well known to all. Okay. However, what digital does is that it takes it to a very different level. It could be around collaboration. It could be around minimizing manual effort, or having a real-time view of your energy consumptions, your process yields, availability, plant availability, health and safety aspects. So what digital does is, so it actually enables and facilitates the current human and manual effort, so that everything becomes very precise and to that effect real time. So that's the core about how digital can add significant value to manufacturing operations. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Amit, I'm going to take that to you. From one other side of the table, how at NASSCOM are you kind of viewing the whole concept of intelligent industry and its application in what we are really seeing as the digital economy? One that has certainly been disrupted, but one that is expected to certainly bounce back.
Absolutely, thanks. So I think the intelligent industry, while we are talking about since quite a bit of a time, but I think the kind of a real adoption is still needs to happen a lot more. And my definition of intelligent industry is making all the resources in our plants more intelligent, right? So the plant gets run by the people, the machinery, raw materials. We have different kind of resources at the plants. And when we say intelligent, so if you can make an intelligent decision for everyone, for our workers, for the machinery that we have, and the raw material and our products, correct? All decision making, if you can make intelligent, I think that will be the most important way to improve the productivity and the efficiency in the plants. So, and this can be done in a various ways, correct? I mean, we are talking about data as the central to each of the things. So for every decision making, we will need data to be in a proper shape. Every kind of a data which is needed for the analysis needs to be there. Data needs to define. So there are a lot of operations needs to be done before. So I think that's what I have to say. Data is important. There are different ways we can use the data to get the insights out of it, and then the decision making needs to happen.
Yeah, it's very interesting, gentlemen, and I am going to bring this to you. Prasenjit, with your permission, if I may come to you. The whole concept of intelligence, when infused in a convergence of humans and machines, is expected to power innovation. And innovation being, well, if I may be allowed to call it a commodity, one that is significantly needed in the years to come. And I, of course, speak about various central government, state government initiatives, Atmanirbhar Bharat, for example, by itself. Now, how do you orchestrate true innovation and make a difference in the intelligent industry concept from just doing something incremental?
You see, Arjun, that's a very interesting question, because there's also a dichotomy in the question that you ask.
Indeed, it is.
Because whereas innovation is normally looked at a huge big bang approach, we are coming in with a revolutionary idea, something very drastic, something like an Apple iPhone, maybe for the first time when it came. But let us also understand that iPhone does not automatically come in for the first time. it basically moves also from, one step to another of understanding the customer challenges, understanding the customer needs, the problem statements, and then there are certain solutions. Whereas in one way, I would say that it is very important to also have an innovative stream inside of every industry, every company. It is equally important to also have a very, let us say, a very strong and resilient ear to the ground to understand that how the requirements are shifting, how the policies are shifting, what is let us say the need of the hour, and how do we make our processes, our understanding, our thinkings more flexible to adapt to the changes. So innovation is not only about bringing in a very new thing, but also being equally flexible about adopting to the new. For example, I think this pandemic has also taught us how, all of a sudden, almost like overnight, within the span of a couple of weeks, the entire requirement set of whether it is a company, whether it's the government, whether it is the consumers, everything has gone in for a phase shift. And all the companies that stand out today as people who have lost the lowest amounts of revenues are those people who were flexible
Very
enough,
important.
who could understand the how the tides were shifting, and they were able to modify their internal solutions to come up with desired results. I think innovation in the future, even though you are saying it is important, I would also like to put in a rider there that innovation will only be important if people and the companies are flexible. The
Indeed.
more the flexible the companies will be in their approaches to adopting the new, I think more and more innovation you will find coming in from those companies and organizations.
Very, very interesting. I want to take that to you, Atul, and I'm going to add a point to that, saying why you power innovation. I think somewhere the last few months, or at least, well, most of the first half of this year, has taught us many, many lessons on the whole concept of how to build resilience within organizations, within factories, within the economy by itself. How do you kind of bring the whole concept of intelligent industry, intelligent factories, intelligent enterprises to the concepts of building resilience while powering automation? So if you get my drift, to be able to balance it to such a fine degree so as not to compromise on either of the variables or the vectors.
Yeah, so I think Arjun, it's a very pertinent question into current times. So I just want to highlight one thing that we all agree that the current COVID pandemic has actually given a hard reset to most companies, and especially to those who always believe that whatever worked for them in the last decades will continue to work for them forever. Okay, and this also has bring in a sharp reality that it is critical for companies to be more resilient and innovate, harness technologies to sustain their business. It's not just about growth, it's also about sustaining their revenues currently. And I just want to also reflect on a point that with lockdowns across the globe, which we have seen, and it continues in some shape and form in different cities in India as well. There is, and then within companies, within the work structure, we are required to follow the physical, or so to say, social distancing norms. Now, getting the right team to run and attend to operational and maintenance issues, I'm talking about an industry today. It's becoming a nightmare for organizations to get the right experts to be available 24/7.
Very true.
Now, and to add to this situation is the age factor. Now, the most senior colleagues in the enterprise who are most experienced in running the plant operations or addressing maintenance issues are also unfortunately the most vulnerable for the virus attack, which means that they would like to stay home or work from home, but at the same time their requirement is there on the shop floor. So now companies are realizing, they're contemplating that how do we leverage technology, maybe use artificial intelligence or maybe use machine learning to that effect, or in fact deploy something like an IoT which can predict some kind of failures in advance, so that they can facilitate and run their operations without a breakpoint or a breakdown, so to say. So I think these are times wherein this COVID has actually, as I said, it's an opportunity for progressive organizations to start looking at how do we need to reshape ourselves. Okay, what do we need to do differently so as to be ready and be available to serve the customer needs.
Indeed, indeed. And Amit, if I could come to you, both Prasanjit and Atul made very, very strong, impactful points about the need to reshape, rethink, and fundamentally reimagine. What's your view? Resilience on one end, but the need to be hyper competitive in an equally hyper competitive market and an economy of sorts, and being able to balance all of these together.
Yeah, thanks. So from NASSCOM, our biggest focus is to drive innovations in the industry in the country. Right?
Yes.
So we keep talking with the companies on the innovation, and seems like innovation has become a buzzword now. Right? So everyone says, I mean, we are innovating, we are kind of doing our best to bring out new things. Now, what is the real innovation? What it means? Right? So I think there has to be a dedicated focus on the innovation, which doesn't happen just by kind of seeing, I mean, that we are an innovative company. And then coming to your point of between the resilience and then also making sure you are taking enough of a risk, correct? So I think that's where the innovation comes, with the taking about of the risk, some element of risk taking also, because when you are innovating, you are trying out few things in a different way, which becomes important. So I think one thing we need to be prepared while doing innovation is we need to be prepared for failure. And we need to build an innovation funnel. So for example, we need to have about, say, if there is something, efforts are going on, define multiple new ideas, right? I mean, an idea can be small, an idea can be big. So it doesn't matter, but the multiple ideas needs to be shaped up at an organization level. And from there, a funnel needs to be created, evaluation, and then taking them further. So at the end, if you say, if you have 10 ideas which started with, it could be possible that only one or two might kind of see the light. But even though one or two ideas can see the light, then it can cover up for a big thing from the organization point of view. And then the point comes up is, how do you really define all of these? So I think there has to be a structured process around the coming up with an ideas and then taking the ideas to the next level, so that we are taking the right decisions, correct? And
that indeed is important.
Yeah, and then I'm a huge fan of design thinking, right? And I think that's a great way of bringing up or thinking at an organization level, thinking from every user point of view. And that user, when I'll say again, it could be an employee, it could be our internal system, it could be customer, it could be all our stakeholders. And that's a great way to bring everyone together in a one room, brainstorming, generating ideas, identifying the real issues, what is going on, not just looking at the issue in an isolation, but look at holistically at an organization level, and then start kind of prioritizing them, and then from there look at what are the ideas that can be taken to the next level. So I think that's where, I mean, some kind of structure has to be followed.
And you made a pertinent point there, which is what I'm going to, with your permission, take to Prasanjit. Prasanjit, Amit spoke about the whole concept of ideation, design thinking. Now, when you kind of bring intelligence and data together, within your vast experience, and I am going to come to Atul too, practical use cases or examples where the crafting of intelligent industry or intelligent factories has led to superior. Prasanjit, if I may come to you.
Yes, Arjun, thank you. So you see, what has happened is, again, I fully agree with Amit that a proper kind of a concerted approach and a design thinking is definitely important to come up with a set of ideas and then funnelize the ideas to understand that what is going to make business sense, whether it is for the customers, whether it is for the internal operations. And coming back to your question about certain ideas and certain things,
the practical application,
some practical examples that if I may talk about. I'll give you one example of in the last 3-4 months only. I mean, I talked
Most
earlier.
interesting, yes.
So we have one of our divisions which is dealing with the chemicals. So we make specialty chemicals for various different industry practices. And during this period, and if you remember, during the months of April, I think end of March, April, etc., there were huge requirements, and people were talking about sanitization, and people were talking about how can we have sanitization liquids for our, for our hands and all that. And chemicals was actually in a very suitable position, which was already making these specialist chemicals for other people. And we also found that why can't we make hand sanitizers also? I mean, it is just a small deviation from what we are doing, but we have all the right ingredients in terms of people who think about molecules, think about making up different compositions. And this is also a composition that we are talking about. So this is one example. Other examples when we talk about, I mean, whether it is in across all our, different businesses. Another thing that I will talk to you about is the entire focus of the industry or the government policies, which has now come onto the clean air, clean water area. So we have already actually started about talking about products, discussing products which are suited to these policies. Because more and more we find that the customers are no longer interested in managing, let us say, the utilities processes themselves, but they are getting more perturbed by the government policies, and they are looking out for organizations with whom they can partner on the outcomes. So basically, it is something like industry saying that this is my core industry is not my utilities. But at the end of the day, I understand that there are going to be some effluents which is going to come out of my industry. Yes. Can I partner with an organization who can take care that the effluents which are going to come out is going to be falling within the norms of the policy? And these are those outcome-driven areas that we are looking for. Another third example maybe I can say is this entire pandemic has also put a huge shutdown on the labor availability across, whether it is companies, whether it is project sites, I mean, you name it, everywhere. And this has also pushed the entire organization to look at remote monitoring mechanisms. Yes. Not only remote monitoring, but also remote, we have actually also seen remote commissioning. And these were certain skill sets which were all there, maybe latent in nature, which has all come into the forefront because of the pandemic. So I can say that this pandemic, in a way, has also worked as a catalyst in really bringing to the fore many latent possibilities and skill sets that we already have. And we were just looking at the right moment to bring it. Maybe if you allow me one more minute, Arjun, I will take one more example from my previous organization. In Volkswagen, we were working on the electric vehicles, and every other major were also working on electric vehicles for a long time. But for also equally important to note was, for a long time, they were all in the alpha and the beta stages. But the moment there was the entire push about the diesel polluting vehicles, and then there was the entire chaos about the emission norms which happened in America, and then it got percolated to all the other parts of the world. It also worked as a catalyst for many automotive industry companies to come up with their electric vehicles very quickly. They were all lab ready, they were all beta ready and beta tested. It was just a catalyst. They were waiting maybe for a catalyst to bring it out on the field. And that was another example from the automotive industry.
Atul, I'm going to bring that to you. We heard a diverse spectrum of examples and use cases from Prosenjit. If I could come to you, sir, in your vast experience, and maybe perhaps something as recent as the first half of this year, the use of data and intelligence to power either superior business outcomes or innovation, efficiency.
Hi. So no, I think it's quite. No, I'll give you a very specific example of what we did and how we leveraged technology to drive operational excellence and other use cases. So first of all, what we did is we commissioned an IoT solution based on for operational excellence year back. And during this shutdown, during the forced shutdown, I would say,
Indeed.
even for chemical factories and the likes, it is important to keep monitoring even the shutdown state of equipments or even the inventory. It could be raw material, it could be work in progress, or it could be finished goods also. Those have to be monitored so that you ensure that the safe upkeep, they are in safe storage, so to say. So, we all know during the pandemic, when it was at the peak, so we had this situation at LG Chemicals in Vizag, wherein while they were trying to restart after this lockdown, there was a big leakage, because of which there were multiple fatalities which happened. And in fact, I don't know whether you would know that there is one of the setups in Telangana. Recently, they had a big blast wherein their complete boiler unit and their the utility unit, it blasted off, and we had around 7 to 8 fatalities. All these are issues related to safety, related to hazards of maybe because the supervision was not continual. So I'm just telling you a situation wherein if you do not monitor your operations right, then what could be the consequence? It's not just about loss of productivity, it could result in loss of lives also. So as I was telling, in our case, we had set up this real-time IoT solution, one on the operational excellence and the other one was for the energy generation and consumption pattern realization. So what we did using that, so we are able to troubleshoot, we are able to troubleshoot the production bottlenecks, we are able to track the asset utilizations at optimized levels, we are able to track scrap and any yield loss issues. For batch cycle plants, we are able to see whether the batch cycle times are optimal, or are we taking more time to produce the same product. Then we are also looking at BOM versus actual. BOM versus actual is, suppose if you have to make tea, example, I'm just making it very simple for everybody to understand. So you need to add so much of milk, so much of water, so much of sugar, and give so much of heat to be able to get so much of the tea output. But suppose if you were to consume more milk or more sugar or more heat, then the process is not optimal. So the cost of making that particular glass or that quantity of tea will be suboptimal. So if you were to look at those aspects real time, so you can intervene rather than looking at those data sets after the shift gets over or after the day gets over, which was the historic thing which we were doing. But by that time, that opportunity is already lost. So all of this is happening using technology. And in fact, during the shutdown period, we were monitoring, as I said, the inventory, the plant running conditions using the remote operation, the IoT technologies which we had put in place. So all these are real examples I'm telling. I'm not talking about something which is futuristic or we should do, or this is not Google Gyan I'm trying to give you.
Indeed, we realize
it's all what we have done at our setups. And another use case, I just want to also highlight for other leaders is, today you have to see you're spending money on your ERP systems, you're spending on your process control systems, you're spending money on laboratory systems, money on HRMS, CRM, so many applications. So you can create a laundry list of applications you would have in your organization. Now, in many of these systems, you would have data sets which is actually you got creating redundant data sets. So maybe duplicity of effort is going. Then along with duplicity, there is always a likelihood of a mismatch, integrity issues. So if you were to have these siloed systems integrated, and then with business context, of course, so that then you can actually look at what's going right, what's going wrong in a very holistic manner, rather than looking at these pocket solutions or implementing such pocket solution and then saying, no, I'm driving transformation. No, it is not. It is actually you are doing some intervention which you are putting it under the umbrella of transformation. So unless you are able to measure and monitor what are the key levers or the key KPIs of your enterprise or your organization on a real-time basis, there is little much value you can create otherwise. That's my thought.
Outstanding points, gentlemen. But I do have a view on the clock, and that is pretty much what we have time for. But I still do have time, which is exactly a minute. And I'm going to go quickly to each of you Amit, with your permission, I am going to start from you. Your one prediction for Indian industry from the concept of the intelligent industry in the months or the years to come.
Great, thanks, Arjun. I think it was an interesting discussion that we had today. And if I talk about one prediction that we'll have is, I certainly believe that every manufacturing company in India, whether it is small or large, will look for digital to find ways to cut the cost. Saving the cost is not just an desire now, it's a kind of a must. And we have seen the people who have adopted digital earlier, they are in a much, much better stage. So I'm really seeing the growth of digital happening, the adoption of the technologies, new technologies. When we talk about AI, IoT, cloud, the adoption of these technologies will exponentially increase in the country at every organization level. And if the people are still not kind of in waking up, then I think it's a
time is now.
Time is now.
Outstanding. Prosenjit, one prediction for Indian industry from the concept of intelligence, data, and its capital use.
I think one thing is for certain, Arjun, that every manufacturing industry is going to try to become more intelligent and smart. The degree, as I had told you earlier, will vary from industry to industry. Another prediction that I make is it is not only going to be about the operational efficiency anymore. It is going to be about flexibility. It is going to be about the outside in picture of understanding what is the customer requirement. And also after the pandemic, my prediction is that a very large component of intelligence and automation will be towards the safety and also having processes which are compliant to all the government norms. I think from my perspective, Arjun, I would like to give you that prediction.
Lovely. And Atul Govil, I come to you. Finally, sir, your prediction for Indian industry from the concept of intelligence and data capital.
Thank you, Arjun. I think no, I do not hold a crystal ball, but just let me give you my perspective. I think digital holds a great promise and a huge risk also for those who are comfortable in their past glory. And it's important for industry leaders like us and all of us to really think through and move beyond the hype. And we need to crystallize how actually tech is currently impacting our business, and it will impact more in months or years to come. Importantly, we need to challenge the assumptions that we had, which built our past success. And the last point I want to add here is that digital is beyond technology. It's now a way of life. All we need to do is just participate in the many ways it can facilitate us and our organizations. So that's the thing. And for the prediction point, I think with more powerful computers and algorithms now available, technologies like AI, ML, as Amit also mentioned, will see more pronounced usage, expansive usage in enterprises in months to come. Mind it, it's not about years, it's not about decades, it's not about the future. I'm talking about in months to come, we will see more pronounced usage, and companies who miss out will do it at their own risk. Yeah,
Indeed,
that's my point.
Indeed, so beautiful words. Gentlemen, that pretty much is what we have time for in this segment of episode 1 of the Digital Dialogues. Ladies and gentlemen, you were with your host Arjun Vishwanathan in dialogue with Prosenjit Sengupta, Atul Govil, and Amit Saluja. Gentlemen, it has been nothing short of delightful and a privilege to have been in conversation with you. I would like to thank you. It was brilliant, and I'm sure the audience found it extremely impactful. For the audience, stay tuned. We'll be back with the next segment shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Arjun. Thank you, Prosenjit.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Please stay tuned. Our next segment is titled Strategy in Motion and will be moderated again by Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer, Strategic. Over to you, sir.